Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at what was, honestly, an absolute tactical masterclass. We are heading straight into a sold-out Audi field right in our nation's capital, where the electric atmosphere really set the perfect stage for the All-State Continental Classico. Emma Hayes' United States squad stepped onto the pitch and systematically dismantled a very, very strong Canadian side, walking away with a comprehensive 3-0 victory. Today, we're going to break down exactly how they pulled it off, looking at the specific tactics, the key matchups, and those standout moments that completely define this match.
Okay, let's dive into this structured playbook for today. We'll start with setting the stage, then look at their blistering pace and pressure, move into how they were lethal from set pieces, and wrap up with the final verdict.
Section 1. Setting the stage. A historic rivalry renewed.
Now you have to remember, this wasn't just your average friendly, right? This was the 67th meeting between these historic North American rivals, and it carried immense weight because of just how different these two rosters looked. Canada was entering the match in a really fine run of form, relying heavily on a deeply experienced veteran presence to try and control the tempo. But Emma Hayes? Well, she countered with a massive roll of the dice. She brought an incredibly youthful, mostly untested U.S. roster. 12 of the 23 players came straight from NWSL clubs. You had 5 players making their senior debuts in this exact game, and even players like goalkeeper Angelina Anderson sitting on literally 0 caps. It was such a fascinating tactical decision to pit all that raw youth directly against seasoned Canadian experience.
Moving to Section 2, blistering pace and pressure, dominating the flanks.
The U.S. absolutely did not shy away from their youth. They weaponized it right out of the gate, basically turning this game into a track meet out on the wings. Analysts nailed this perfectly before the game, noting she's got some pace that the Canadian team are going to have to deal with. They were talking about Alyssa Thompson, of course. Thompson came into this game in just sensational form, having scored in back-to-back matches. And this immediately created a direct, terrifying mismatch against Canada's wingbacks, whether it was Ashley Lawrence or Gabby Carl trying to stop her. The U.S. game plan was loud and clear. Get the ball out wide and just dare Canada to keep up.
So how did this actually play out on the pitch? It was basically a relentless assault down the left wing. Alyssa Thompson forced an incredibly tough night for Ashley Lawrence, pulling her completely out of position time and time again. Meanwhile, Michelle Cooper was a total menace out there, just constantly creating chaos, getting caught between defenders and driving straight to the byline to cut balls back. This frantic pace forced Canada to scramble, which perfectly allowed players like Lynn Bandolo to slip in and exploit those newly created gaps. And the best part? When the U.S. actually lost the ball, a ferocious counterpress led by Cooper and Bandolo won it right back instantly. They completely choked the life out of Canada's transition game.
And this brilliantly illustrates the tactical intelligence behind all that physical speed. You really have to look at the blindside run here. Because the Canadian defense was constantly backpedaling and ball watching to deal with the U.S. pace, they kept losing track of runners. In one phenomenal sequence, Michelle Cooper laid in this delicate touch, and Lynn Dandolo made a devastating blindside run, cutting in right behind the back shoulder of Canadian defender Jade Rose. Rose literally couldn't even see her coming. Bandolo managed to get a really dangerous header off, forcing a great save. It was just a textbook example of pairing physical speed with super high tactical IQ.
All right, Section 3, lethal from set pieces, a hidden weapon.
Going into this match, practically all the chatter was about pace on the wings. Pretty much nobody was talking about set pieces. But this number, 2, changes everything. The United States scored 2 of their 3 goals directly from set pieces. It went from an afterthought to a massive, game-changing threat that Canada was just completely unprepared to handle.
Let's move to and see how this builds, looking at the narrative progression of this nightmare for the Canadian defense. The 3-0 scoreline really unfolded in 3 distinct chapters. It kicks off with Sam Coffey's strike to open the floodgates, follows up with Claire Hutton's stunning header to double the lead, and then finishes with Yasmin Ryan's absolute dagger late in the game. Let's break down exactly how these moments happened.
The opening goal from Sam Coffey was a masterclass in spatial awareness inside the penalty area. It's like a giant puzzle clicking into place. Off a set piece, the ball is flicked on inside the box. Canada actually gets the first touch, but it falls into a really dangerous spot. Avery Patterson is standing right there. Now, Canada totally expects her to yank it with her left foot, but instead, Patterson provides this brilliant, subtle little touchdown dummy. She just leaves it. Sam Coffey, who has been on an absolute tear lately, steps right up and strikes it with total authority. Boom. That made it 1-0 U.S., marking Coffey's 3rd goal in just 5 games.
Then, the U.S. utilized that set-piece mastery all over again for the 2nd goal.
Rose Lavelle, who we all know is always lurking and incredibly dangerous on the ball, whips in a beautiful, inviting left-footed in-swinger. The delivery is absolutely perfect, but the finish by Claire Hutton is what really makes this special. Hutton is jockeying in the box, finds herself completely unmarked, and instead of letting the ball float, which, let's be honest, so often results in a header just sailing over the crossbar, she snaps a perfect header straight down into the turf. Goalkeeper Kaylin Sheridan is sliding one way and simply cannot shift her momentum back across to save it. It was flawless technique that earned Claire Hutton her very first international goal.
Which brings us to our last section, Part 4, the final verdict, clean sheets and confidence.
Scoring 3 goals is fantastic, no doubt about it, but keeping a clean sheet against a team with the attacking pedigree of Canada, that requires immense stability. And that stability was firmly anchored by 25-year-old goalkeeper Claudia Dickey, who simply had all the answers. Whenever Canada looked like they might actually claw their way back into the match, Dickey was a brick wall. Canada's Jordan Heitma found herself in some great positions, making really good runs, but Dickey came up huge every time. She was incredibly brave, making herself huge and getting right in the way of dangerous balls threaded into the box. Her composure, radiating from the backline, gave this young U.S. squad all the confidence they needed to just keep pushing.
And that defensive confidence is exactly what allowed the U.S. to put the final nail in the coffin. Let's look at Yasmin Ryan's dagger. This combination off the bench worked to absolute perfection. First, Nikki Owen breaks the Canadian line with a beautiful pass across to Yasmin Ryan. Step 2 is all about ice-cold patience. Ryan doesn't rush the shot. She waits, holding the ball, giving herself just a fraction of a second as the goalkeeper Sheridan comes across. She waits for the exact perfect window. And finally, step 3, she executes this clinical diving nutmeg finish right through the defender Gill to make it 3-0. It was the ultimate dagger, securing her first international goal on her debut. What a moment!
So the crucial point is really highlighted by this pure statistical dominance, a resounding 3-0 final score for the United States over a veteran Canadian side. A massive, hard-fought clean sheet for the 25-year-old Claudia Dickey, standout performances across the entire board, notably Sam Coffey netting her 3rd goal in 5 games. And of course, incredible milestones with both Claire Hutton and Yasmin Ryan scoring their very first international goals. All in all, it was a comprehensive job done by Emma Hayes and her squad.
Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. With a dominant 3-0 win driven almost entirely by raw, young talent and incredible debutantes, what is the true ceiling for Emma Hayes' squad heading into the October camp? I mean, if this is what they can do while they are still just learning to play together, the rest of the world better be on high alert. Thanks so much for joining me today to break down this tactical masterclass, and I'll see you on the next explainer.